All right, chapter 13. Brian thought somewhere he'd heard something about comas. He must have, something more than he could remember. But it had to be in his mind, in his thinking, and if it was there, he must be able to get it out. He spent the morning trying to remember what he knew, but nothing came. It was like a sleep, except that you didn't wake up, he thought. Everything kept working, but you couldn't eat or drink. He had been moving from the lake to the shelter with a birch bark cone full of water. They could wait all week, wait 9 or 10 days for the plane to come, or he could. He knew that people had gone that long without food. Derek would lose some weight, but he wouldn't starve to death in that time. But Brian was sure Derek could not go that long without water. 2, 3 days, maybe 4, then he would be in trouble. He'd heard or read or seen that the human body couldn't go that long without water. And it had already been 1 day, going on 2 days. He could try getting Derek to drink. If he could get water in him, he would last. His breathing had steadied still more, and his heart rate was close to normal. But Brian had finally to measure it and calculate that it was running about 65 beats per minute. He remembered something about the rate, supposing to be 72, so Derek was low, but it was still working all right. Brian made a small light holder out of birch bark. With this, he dipped water from the cone, propped next to Derek's head, and he put a small bit of water into the unconscious man's mouth. The effect was immediate and explosive. I don't know what this is. He's choking. He's choked instantly, and reflex action took over, and he coughed, spraying water and spit in Brian's face. The choking continued, and Brian frantically pulled Derek's head over to the side, held his face down, and pounded on his back. All he knew to do. It seemed to last forever, and Brian was terrified that he had killed Derek. One mistake, one thing wrong, and he was choking to death. But finally, the water cleared from Derek's throat, and the coughing stopped. His breathing was still ragged. So you can't drink. Brian settled Derek's head back onto the rolled-up jacket. That doesn't make all this any easier. At first, he felt strange, talking to Derek, and there was no indication that he could be heard. He remembered his mother reading a story in a paper and telling him about a girl that had been in a coma for months. Please, he thought, dear God, don't let Derek be under that long. And when she recovered, she said that while she was in the coma, she could hear people talking. She could hear and understand, but could not answer. And he thought Derek might be the same. Derek? He leaned close to Derek's face. Can you hear me? There was no sign. Can you move your eyelids? If you hear me, move your eyelids. Nothing. The eyes were half open, filled with tears that came constantly. Apparently, the body was trying to keep them from drying out, because Derek could not blink. He sat up, then stood, and looked at the sky. I can't do this, he thought. I can't do this alone. I just can't. He looked down at Derek again, shook his head. I don't know what to do. And he realized then that he was wrong. It wasn't like last time. He wasn't alone. There was Derek. Maybe if he talked to him, spoke aloud to him, maybe it might help. Here it is, Brian said, squatting again, moving a stick in the dirt. There's no way anybody will come for at least a week, maybe longer, maybe 10 days. I don't think it would be good to go that long without water. I can't get you to drink because I think you'll choke, so, he repeated, shrugging, drawing dirt. I don't know what to do. He threw the stick down in exasperation. It hit the ground harder than he meant, then bounced and skipped into Derek's briefcase. Brian saw it as if for the first time. He'd forgotten it, the crisis, and went to it. What have you got in here? It was not locked, and he opened it with 2 sliding thumb releases on either end of the handle edge. Inside there were spiral notebooks. They weren't anything special, the kind with the twisted wire holding the edge, and each of them was numbered. He opened number 1. Read aloud. Brian demanded that we leave all the gear in the plane, or it would ruin the whole experiment. Oh, yes, Brian thought. I did that. Oh, God, I did that, didn't I? I stuck my little foot down and got stubborn and set all this up. What was there? Food and shelter and a gun and all the things I didn't think we'd need that would make this easier. I admire his ethics, he finished reading. He put the notebook down. You do, eh? Admire me, the guy who made us lose all that gear? He felt like he was prying and decided not to read any more of the notebooks. He started to close the briefcase and saw a folding accordion-style section that collapsed back into the lid. There was something in the section, and he pulled out a folded paper. When he opened it, he saw that it was the map. The same map they had looked at with Brian's mother. He saw the lake, saw where they had circled it with her, showing where they would be, how located it looked, how easy to see and find and locate. Derek had had 2 copies of the map, and he left one with Brian's mother, so you can always tell right where we are. Brian remembered sitting there, his mother smiling, all her questions answered, all her doubts gone. And now Derek had brought the other map and kept it. When Brian dug his heels in and told him to send everything but the radio back, and in some relief, Brian had spread the map gratefully on the back of the briefcase, thinking it would help. But now he shook his head and started to fold it. What difference did it make if he knew where they were? It wouldn't help them. Then he looked at the lake again, saw wide, flat greenness, how there were many lakes around it, and he saw the river.